And the genesis of my presentation began last March when our institution was closed and we were all forced to work from home. I spoke to several colleagues, and we were very concerned about how we were going to provide services and resources to our patrons. And there's no guidelines. This was uncharted territory. What do we do? After the panic subsided a bit, we realized that we had to exchange ideas, information, what worked, what didn't work, who could we partner with. And surprisingly, a year later, we did really well. Many of us haven't missed a beat, and I would like to share some of those ideas and practices today. Okay. Okay, where are we? Oh. Okay. Oh, a little bit of a technical glitch. I'm sorry about that. It's Murphy's Law. I apologize.
It's okay. Just deep breath. You can start over.
Okay. Okay. Okay, to achieve the highest performance, you should set aside a designated work area. This will minimize interruptions and distractions, but invariably and inevitably, we'll have our child run in, we'll have our cat walk across the keyboard, and we just have to go with the flow. These things will happen, but we should make every attempt to minimize the interruptions. Purchase an ergonomic workstation and have suitable lighting, a standing desk, if you prefer, charging ports, etc. Treat it like you would your typical office. Your back, neck, and wrists will thank you. Maintain a professional at-home work environment. You should be available during your scheduled work hours. You don't want people sending you emails and you're outside or you're running errands or you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. So be available when you're supposed to. Clock in and out as required. Start your workday when you're supposed to start it and leave when you're supposed to leave. Avoid the temptation to run personal tasks and errands during your workday. Not only is this unprofessional, but you're really shortchanging your patrons and your colleagues if you're not available at your appointed time. And the next one is really a dual-edged sword. You can inquire whether a cell phone can be provided by your employer. But remember, this will tether you to work, and you will likely be taking phone calls, answering text messages outside of work hours, and it could really take on a life of its own. So be careful what you ask for. Collegial relationships. Cultivate and maintain professional relationships. I was able to garner a lot of information, a lot of resources just by reaching out to colleagues, whether it was in a public environment, a college setting, there was in the tech field. Use their expertise to make your job a little easier. Communicate with staff and colleagues regularly. I try to do so at least 3-4 times a week. This eliminates any communication gaps, forestals any problems. So reach out to them. And it creates a sense of normalcy in this very abnormal time. This is a very important issue, achieving a work-life balance. There is a tendency to work longer hours when you're at home. I know that this is true of myself, and I'm sure many of you as well. It's always that one more email that we want to answer, one more project that we want to undertake, one less thing on our plate the next day. But always take your regularly scheduled lunch hour and breaks. This is vital. Take some time to go for a walk, relax, and stretch. And the following link will provide some valuable tips. And I'm sure this will be available for you to peruse after this presentation is over. Now we move on to patron services. Everyone is suffering from Zoom fatigue. Find ways to engage your patrons with other avenues of communication: phone calls, emails, WhatsApp, Messenger, FaceTime, etc. Try to use any resource that you and your patrons are comfortable with. Also be aware that patrons have various learning abilities and should have access to a variety of information formats. Some may be visual learners, some may prefer print, some need detailed instructions, some are oral learners, live, in person, or a combination of all of these. Cover your bases. Don't reinvent the wheel. Publishers, libraries, local government agencies, and colleagues have already developed methods to best serve their clientele. And if you are outside of the library field, you probably don't know that anyone who lives, works, or attends school in New York State is eligible for a New York Public Library barcode, and it allows them to access all of their resources and services. You could go right online, fill out the e-card application, and receive a digital barcode within an hour or so. See if their programs work for your patron base. Ask if you could clone their programs, add links to your homepage, and just reach out, network, see what other people are doing, see what works, what doesn't work. Remember, what works for another institution may not work for yours. Adapt. And another thing that I would like to add is you should try to be flexible. Things will happen, as you saw at the start of this presentation. There will be a technical glitch, the internet will go down, someone will be called away, someone needs to take that important call. So you need to be flexible and you need to adapt. What works for larger or smaller institutions may not work for yours. Tailor your programs and resources. And to give you an example of this, we have approximately 150 students at UTS. About 75 to 90 of them are very active. They'll contact the library for various resources, questions, and the like. And we get to know many of them on a personal basis. we communicate with them regularly, and something like this would be very difficult, if not impossible, if you are working at the Columbia University Library or the CUNY system. So remember, you need to tailor, make your programs and resources and adapt to your environment. Ask your colleagues why they chose or did not choose a particular approach. You don't want to adapt or adopt a program and midway through realize it doesn't work. This could be forestalled if you just reach out and communicate. Be accessible for your patrons. Consider a live chat box. This was something that UTS did not have before. As I mentioned, we're a very small institution. Students would just call up, they would stop in, and we really didn't have a need for this feature until the pandemic hit. Develop a social media page. Again, UTS did not have this prior to COVID-19. We reached out, we developed a Facebook page, we put messages, we put the latest resources, programs that we will be offering. And we expanded our Zoom sessions. And what I mean by this is not everyone can call in at the appropriate time for a Zoom session. We have students in the Philippines, Africa, Albania, and 2 o'clock New York time won't work for them. So keep that in mind, be cognizant of that fact, and try to scatter them if you will. Post phone numbers and contact information. I was very comfortable distributing my personal cell phone number to our students. I'm not inundated by calls. Students, by and large, are very respectful. Most of them will text rather than call. But it's just one more way for students to reach out and for me to provide the best possible services that I can for them. Update or remove links. You don't want to have broken links on your library page. You don't want something that's outdated. This indicates a carelessness, a message that you really don't care enough about the students or your facility to put in the most appropriate up-to-date links. Build positive relationships. Waive fines and fees if possible. The pandemic has wreaked a lot of havoc on finances. And if you start charging late fees and fines, that's going to impact the number of people who are coming into your facility. They will borrow because of something that they may owe. So waive them if possible. Consider non-traditional appointment times. We mentioned this already with Zoom. But if you're going to have a reference interview with someone and they're only available at 9 a.m., try to make yourself available at that time. If they're only available after 9 p.m. and you're willing to do so, try to set something up at that hour. Within reason. You don't want to start making appointments at 2 o'clock in the morning when someone has their break while they're working the swing shift. Mail items or resources directly to faculty and staff, especially if you use Amazon or other vendors. I've had professors reach out, they're looking for particular books or articles or journals, and I will have it sent directly to their home. And take advantage of media rate when you go to the post office. That'll save your institution and your budget a lot of unnecessary fees. Go above and beyond. This is called return on relationship, or ROR. And it's a term used most often in marketing. It's used to measure positive outcomes and value that comes from nurturing connections with patrons. It increases recommendations to your facility, referrals, repeat visits, and it's something that needs to be cultivated and nurtured. You want these people to come into your institution. You want them to interact. You want them to engage. You want them to borrow and to use your resources. Engage your patrons on social media. If you're comfortable with Facebook, use Facebook. If you're comfortable with Instagram, use that platform. Whatever works, whatever gets the message out, and whatever makes the patron feel included. A large number of followers may indicate that your message is getting out. The return on relationship can lead to positive communication with your board of trustees, your deans, etc. And it may lead to an increase in your budget and your staffing. And this term, return on relationship, was coined by marketing guru Ted Rubin. Accessing resources. Using your institution's COVID protocol, set aside 1 or 2 days per week, depending on staffing, to open your facility to patrons. We are only permitted to enter UTS by building directive on Monday. We need to contact one of the deans. We need to fill out an online form indicating that we haven't traveled to COVID hotspots. We affirm that we don't have any symptoms, and we need to state our business. Set up appointment times for social distancing. Allow patrons to return items by media rate mail. And if you're going to be open on a particular day, you don't want 50, 60 people milling about your facility. So try to space them out, put down the floor markers, try to keep some separation. Another big issue has been photocopying. There will be an increase in requests for photocopying materials. Not many of us have copy machines in our home, so they will contact a librarian to see if they can get materials sent to them. Most of the time, I'm able to do this by sending them a PDF or a link. But make sure if you are doing physical copying that you and your staff are familiar with fair use and intellectual property guidelines. You don't want any legal issues. Add useful links. Knowing your patrons will allow you to post links that are free of charge and useful to their needs. Again, people are feeling the financial crunch over the past year. They don't have the disposable income to purchase textbooks or supplementary material. So anything that you could do to help them would be appreciated, I'm sure. Large public libraries, publishers, Purdue, OWL have very good citation, writing, and other resources free of charge. Take advantage of that at every chance. And make sure you vet the links first. As I stated, broken links indicate that you can't be bothered to put up a quality website. Another very important factor is the maintenance of statistics. Keep accurate statistics for your programming, website traffic, username and password requests, because this could also impact your budget. The number of visitors to our website jumped 100, 200% in the months following the shutdown. Our library patron interaction has increased, in some cases tripled during the past year. I would have information literacy workshops in person, and we would have maybe 3, 4, 5 people attend. Now with Zoom, it's not unusual to have 15, 20, 30 people attending every session. And statistics will underscore your department's importance in the institution or the community. High attendance programs include PowerPoint and MS Office workshops, database searching, Google Scholar, and guest speakers. Virtual program, book discussion groups, roundtables, conferences, etc. have also been highly attended. Have a tech-savvy person on staff. We are fortunate that we have a student who was a sound and audio engineer in his native India, and he's a library assistant. He's always available whenever we have workshops, conferences, and he monitors Zoom sessions and to avail them if they could troubleshoot basic tech issues for patrons. We're not asking them to go to extreme lengths to install software or something really extreme, but basic tech issues are usually very helpful. Make sure that they keep statistics as well. Okay, this brings us to the important question of what are some tasks that you could do to maximize exceptional library service? Virtual reading of shelf list reports. Identify items that can be accessed remotely. Review and update training materials and handbooks. Look for and identify data trends. Identify post-COVID policies. Check for dead links. Here we are with the dead links again. Update frequently asked questions. Develop or update LibGuides. You could record workshops and keep up on professional reading. Okay, just to wrap up, the pandemic has proven that remote access and learning works. There's no question about it. It's valuable and has a place in every environment, whether it's a public institution, an academic library, private facility. Maintain a healthy in-home office environment. And remember that library services haven't changed. It's just how they're delivered. Lastly, remote library services are here to stay. And please feel free to contact me if you'd like a copy of the links, the PowerPoint, or if I could be of any assistance to you, please reach out to me at r.wagner@uts.edu. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. I'm just looking in the chat.
I am as well.
And Tessa put a link about the New York Public Library getting a library card, which is a great tip.
Yes.
I'm just going to take a second to see if there's any other questions for you. What was that email again?
Oh, my library email is r.wagner. I'll put it in the box.
Okay.
There we go. And again, please feel free to reach out if I could be of any assistance. I've had many colleagues in various facilities who were kind enough to help me, and I'm just paying it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.